I was brutally beaten by my brother's fiancée, simply because the night before my brother's engagement. Tonight, I reunited with Troy at a restaurant. Then he posted a photo of our reunion on Facebook. He added a caption which read, "Thank you, the most important woman in my life. Since our father passed away, all the business had been on my shoulders. I had no choice but to fly to Orca. It had been many years since I last saw Troy. Upon knowing the news that Troy was about to get engaged, I prepared myself seriously. I planned to face my in-laws in my most stunning look so as not to embarrass Troy. That night, Troy and Sienna had a big fight. I asked Troy what had happened. After all, tomorrow was their engagement banquet. Troy angrily told me, "Sienna said she wants to beat up my mistress. She is so insensible. How could I, Troy Malone, have a mistress?" I rarely interfered or inquired about Troy's matters or his relationships, but I advised Troy, "Getting married is a matter between two people. You must be loyal before getting married. If I find out that you dare to bully Sienna in the future, I will teach you a lesson. I don't care if you indeed have another woman in secret. Since you chose Sienna, cut off all ties with other women." Troy was sweating profusely from my scolding. I didn't expect that the night before their engagement banquet, Troy and Sienna would have a big fight because of a mistress. I secretly made up my mind that I would personally explain the misunderstanding between Troy and Sienna at the engagement banquet tomorrow. I bought a villa worth $17 million as a meeting gift for Sienna as her mother-in-law. The day before the engagement banquet, I carefully dressed myself and went to a beauty salon to do light makeup. I intended to show up with my best look before attending the banquet tonight. Just when everything was ready, I was about to attend Troy's engagement banquet. I saw Sienna leading a group of girls rushing into the beauty salon angrily. I thought to myself, what a small world. I was about to get up and greet Sienna to meet her in advance. Looking at me fiercely, Sienna walked towards me with his girlfriends. Everyone on the scene, who was surprised, gazed at us. Sienna slapped me in the face, ruining my carefully applied makeup. The burning pain on my face made me feel dizzy on the spot. The situation was chaotic. Sienna grabbed my hair and cursed at me loudly. "You are such a botch. Do you think I can't find you hiding here without Troy being honest with me?" Her sudden slap, and the overwhelming insults made me feel both painful and embarrassed. All the guests in the beauty salon were eagerly watching such a drama where a legitimate wife beat up a mistress. She seems quite well-mannered with her words and actions. Unexpectedly, at this age, she would seduce other men and do such shameless things. Everything can indeed happen in this vast world. Everyone's whisper rang out in my ears. I endured the pain on my face and explained, "Sienna, you misunderstood." Sienna didn't give me a chance to speak. She grabbed my hair and pushed me down to the ground. Several of her friends swarmed up, punching and kicking me. The intense pain almost numbed my whole body. Sienna scolded me while beating me. "You slut. You seduced my husband, and you deny that you're not a mistress. If you're not his mistress, how do you know my name? It is funny. I didn't expect you to hide so well. Let me tell you. A lowly woman like you will never be able to rise high and gain glory. Don't ever think about snatching my husband from me in your whole life. When I marry into a wealthy family, I will sell you to a brothel, let you serve thousands of men, and be taken advantage of by tens of thousands." Amid such offensive insults, I kept explaining, "Sienna, I am not Troy's mistress. If you don't believe me, call Troy and ask him." Before Troy had shown me photos and videos of him and Sienna together. In the photos, Sienna appeared as a gentle, considerate, and well-educated girl, but now I realized that I was wrong. I didn't expect Sienna to be so sarcastic and mean. She grabbed my hair and pushed me down to the ground. Several of her friends swarmed up, punching and kicking me. The intense pain almost numbed my whole body. Sienna scolded me while beating me. "Let me tell you. A lowly woman like you will never be able to rise high and gain glory. Don't ever think about snatching my husband from me in your whole life. When I marry into a wealthy family, I will sell you to a brothel, let you serve thousands of men, and be taken advantage of by tens of thousands." She wouldn't give me any chance to explain. She pulled my hair apart and crazily dragged me around. Suffering from excruciating pain, I screamed over and over again. "Well, Troy, you're calling him so intimately. A cheap whore is always a cheap whore. Now you're still verbally stubborn." Sienna looked gloomy saying, "Humph, what a stubborn woman. You sluts who serve as mistresses for others will never admit that you are mistresses even in death. Later, I will take you to the engagement banquet and personally ask Troy whether you or I serve him better. With me around, you will never be able to marry into a wealthy family in your whole life. At best, you are just second-used goods that Troy will kick away after getting tired of you." Sienna's sharp curses kept stimulating my nerves. I dared not imagine what would happen if Troy married a woman like Sienna in the future. Before this, I was full of expectations. I even bought a post-marriage villa for them. "Let's kill this slut. Take off her clothes." Take off her clothes. Today, I want to see if this trash has any shame. Sienna's best friend's eyes flickered with fierceness. They stared at me intently. 4 or 5 people were crazily pulling my hair and beating me on the ground. Cooperating with another woman, Sienna was tearing off the buttons on my long dress. For a moment, I was covered in blood and my body was exposed. Everyone looked at me gloatingly as if it no longer mattered to them whether I was a mistress or not. The scene of me being humiliated and beaten became a great show in their eyes. They watched it with excitement. I desperately covered my chest. There were so many of them. I was simply no match for them. The intense pain almost made me faint. In a daze, I even saw Sienna taking out her cell phone and starting to take pictures of me. "You slut. Your reputation is to be ruined." Sienna's several close friends were about to tear off my remaining tattered clothes. I shouted out, "Sienna, I am Troy's mother." I thought she would call Troy and personally verify my identity, but she laughed recklessly, saying, "You vixen. Do you deserve to be Troy's mother and my mother-in-law? You are just a mistress who can only serve others for a lifetime and live in darkness. You are nobody but a good-looking slut. Troy will never like you. If you are Troy's mother, then the whole world would be turned upside down." Sienna sneered, her face showing madness. Taking out her cell phone, she constantly took pictures of me. What made me desperate was that there were many employees and customers in this beauty salon, but no one stopped them. Everyone was holding their cell phones and taking random pictures of me. Did you see it? This is the end for someone who becomes a mistress for others. The legitimate wife caught her in a beauty salon. The mistress deserves to die. Take off all her clothes and let her be disgraced. She can never turn her life around. The guests added fuel to the fire. Everything around me was in chaos. I felt like my face was covered in blood. I was going to be beaten to death by them. In the chaos, I seemed to hear Sienna's best friend, who was uncertain about the situation, asking quietly, "Sienna, should we confirm it? What if she is?" Before she could finish speaking, Sienna waved her hand to interrupt her. Looking at me lying in a pool of blood with disheveled hair, she said with a sneer, "My mother-in-law is still in Orco." Amid the tearing and fighting, Sienna tore my long dress down to my waist. Her friend restrained both of my arms, and Sienna tore off my remaining underwear. She said she would only arrive today. I did tell Troy that I would attend their engagement banquet on that exact day. By the way, I would formally meet Sienna. I was very happy. I would surely attend Troy's wedding regardless of what happened. So I arrived early last night. I had a meal with Troy at a restaurant near the airport. Now I knew that Sienna was referring to the photo Troy posted on Facebook last night. I was the mistress that Sienna wanted to beat up. Amid the tearing and fighting, Sienna tore my long dress down to my waist. Her friend restrained both of my arms, and Sienna tore off my remaining underwear. There was a burst of commotion around us. "Well, you have the guts to be a mistress, but you don't dare let others see your private parts. Indeed, you have got something. I didn't expect you to maintain yourself so well." Everyone picked up their cell phones and took pictures of me fervently. I screamed miserably, struggling with all my strength, but her friends firmly pressed me to the ground. "Take your hands away," to reveal her chest. "I want to post the photos online so that netizens across the country can see this slut's body." Sienna almost lost her mind. The sound of her laughter echoed through the beauty salon. I fell into a pool of blood, almost dying. Until now, I finally confirmed that Troy had never shown Sienna my photo. "Sienna, does she seem to be dying? Shall we continue?" Sienna's best friends were a little scared. Sienna sneered, saying, "You act so amazingly. When you were being Troy's mistress, did you ever think about your outcome? It's okay as long as I marry Troy and marry into a wealthy family. Troy and my mother-in-law will help me handle it no matter what happens." After finishing her words, Sienna waved her hand and said, "Drag her into the car." Then she looked down at her wristwatch and her face changed. She hurriedly said, "Hurry up, let's go to the engagement banquet venue. My mother-in-law should be there soon. Troy said he wants to formally introduce me to his mother today." After Sienna finished speaking, her group of girlfriends started pulling my hair and dragged me out of the beauty salon. Before leaving, she raised her voice and said to the boss of the beauty salon, "Regarding all the losses caused by us here today, go to the finance department of the Malone Group to be reimbursed for it. Tell them that Troy's wife sent you there." At her words, the beauty salon boss's face changed. He quickly showed a pleasing smile and said, "So it's Mrs. Malone. Don't worry, we won't call the police about what happened here today." Sienna was proud and satisfied. I, who had almost lost all my strength, was humiliated, allowing them to drag me out of the beauty salon. Passers-by were pointing at me and whispering. Sienna stood with her hands on her hips and cursed, "I'm teaching the mistress a lesson. It's none of your business." Someone couldn't bear it anymore. A woman stepped forward to persuade her, "Miss, even if she is indeed the mistress, you can't beat her up like this. Her face is covered in blood, and you tore her dress. Get a piece of clothing to cover her up. Every part of her has been exposed. We all have our dignity. Moreover, what you are doing is illegal." Sienna wouldn't listen at all. She sneered at the woman who spoke up, saying sarcastically, "Well, you are so eager to come forward to defend this slut. The way I see it, you are just like her. You are a shameless mistress, right? And I am rich. My husband is the chairman of the Malone Group. Even if I kill someone, I can afford the compensation." The woman angrily glanced at Sienna. I didn't expect Sienna, who looked gentle and weak, to speak so viciously. Finally, Sienna and her close friends drove and dragged me to the lobby of the hotel where the engagement banquet was held. Today was the engagement banquet. Both families had invited many guests from each side. There were dozens of them. I was dragged in. The guests on Sienna's side and various relatives all looked at me in unison. Sienna, is she the mistress you mentioned? Sienna's parents stood up and looked at me with resentment on their faces. Sienna nodded, saying, yes, that's right. She is the woman in the photo my husband posted on his Facebook timeline last night. I couldn't have mistaken her. Hearing Sienna's confirmation, her mother, Elena Newman, ran straight to me and started slapping my scalp furiously. Bitch. How dare you steal my daughter's man? Today I'll kill you. The continuous blows left me too weak to even speak. I even wondered if they would beat me to death here today. Kill her. Only my daughter can marry into a wealthy family. Elena called her friends over. The people from her side surrounded me again. In the end, Elena said to Sienna, Sienna, bring a knife over. I want to ruin her face. I'll see how you seduce other men in the future. Sienna handed a knife to Elena. Everyone was looking at me as I endured heart-wrenching pain. Elena fiercely slashed my face with the knife. Ouch. I screamed hoarsely. The overwhelming pain made me wake up from the daze. At this time, Sienna's cell phone rang. She arrogantly turned on the speakerphone, and Troy's voice rang out. Sienna, has my mom arrived? What happened over your side? Why is it so noisy? Sienna sneered, saying, I'm teaching your mistress a lesson. Troy was stunned. My mistress? What are you talking about? Sienna, with a knife in her hand, said, your mistress from last night's photo. Troy's face filled with anger when he heard that. That's my mom. What did you do to my mom? As Troy's words echoed through the speaker, the entire room fell silent. Sienna's face turned pale, her hand frozen midair, still gripping the knife she had just used to humiliate me. The sneer that had twisted her lips moments before faded into sheer terror as the reality of her actions crashed down on her. My mom? She stammered, her voice barely above a whisper, her gaze now fixed on me, the woman she had relentlessly tormented and humiliated. I, the woman they had beaten, stripped of my dignity and my very clothes, was Troy's mother, not a mistress. The crowd began to murmur in shock and disgust, eyes filled with pity and horror. Troy's voice on the phone grew colder. Sienna. What did you do? Is my mother hurt? I'm coming now. The line went dead, leaving a chilling silence in its wake. Sienna dropped the knife, her hands shaking uncontrollably. She stumbled back, her face twisted in fear as she realized what she had done. Her perfect life, the engagement, the marriage, all of it was slipping away. She had shattered everything with her blind rage. Elena grabbed Sienna by the arm, trying to shake some sense into her. Fix this, she hissed. Do something before it's too late. But it was too late. I could see it in their eyes, there was no going back. They had stripped me of my dignity and nearly my life, all based on a terrible misunderstanding. When Troy burst through the doors of the hotel lobby and saw me lying there, beaten and bloodied, his face twisted with pain. He rushed to my side, his voice shaking. Mom, I'm so sorry, he whispered, tears filling his eyes. This is my fault. I should have. Despite my pain, I reached out and touched his cheek, trying to comfort him. No, Troy, I whispered, my voice weak but steady. This isn't your fault. But she can't be part of our family. Not after this. Troy's face hardened with determination as he stood up. He turned to Sienna, his expression cold and unforgiving. It's over, he said flatly. You're not the woman I loved. You're nothing to me now. Sienna fell to her knees, sobbing hysterically. Troy, please. I thought she was a mistress. I was jealous, I didn't know, she cried, her voice desperate. But Troy's face was set like stone. You didn't care to know. You let your jealousy ruin everything. Get out of my sight. Elena tried to intervene, but Troy cut her off with a sharp glare. And you, he spat. You're just as guilty. I don't want either of you near me or my mother ever again. As Sienna and her mother were dragged out of the hotel, I looked around the room at the guests who had come to celebrate. Now, they stood in stunned silence, unsure of what to do or say. Troy knelt beside me again, his tears falling freely now. I'm going to take care of you, Mom. I promise. I smiled weakly at him, my heart aching from the pain but also filled with love for the son who stood by me. That's all I've ever needed, Troy. Just you. And as I lay there, in the aftermath of betrayal and humiliation, I knew one thing for certain, nothing could break the bond between me and my son, not Sienna, not anyone. As Troy held me close, I could feel his arms trembling. Though I was still weak from the beating, I knew the worst was yet to come. The physical wounds would heal with time, but the emotional scars, the betrayal, the humiliation, would stay with me forever. The next morning, I woke up in a hospital bed, the sterile scent of antiseptics filling the air. Troy sat beside me, his face etched with concern. He hadn't left my side, not even for a moment. When our eyes met, he gave me a weak smile, but I could see the guilt behind it. I squeezed his hand, my voice still hoarse from the attack. It's not your fault, Troy. But we need to make sure this doesn't happen again. I couldn't let Sienna and her mother walk away from this unscathed. As the evidence piled up, the photos, the witness testimonies, Sienna's confidence crumbled. She tried to apologize, to claim she was overwhelmed by jealousy, but her words felt hollow. No apology could undo the damage she had done. The judge handed down the sentence: prison time for Sienna and a hefty fine for her family. As they led her away in handcuffs, I felt a sense of closure wash over me. Justice had been served. In the aftermath, Troy and I began to rebuild our lives. We moved to a new city, far away from the memories of that awful day. I started a foundation for victims of domestic abuse and public humiliation, using my story as a beacon of hope for others who had suffered in silence.